Sai Ram, dear listeners, and greetings from Prashanthi Nilayam. I am happy to be with you again, and I do hope you like what you have heard thus far. Just to refresh your memory, as I was finishing up last time, I was telling you how sage Vishwamitra suddenly turned up in the court of Emperor Dasaratha and asked him to send Rama with him to the forest to stand guard while he, namely the sage, was performing an important yajna. Dasaratha, who least expected such a demand, began pleading with the sage to be reasonable. Rama was a mere teenager and he had zero battle experience. How then could he be expected to deal with some of the most powerful demons around who were bothering the sage? In fact, why does the sage want a mere boy when he, Dasaratha, was available? Not only did he have enormous experience, but equally important, he could bring an entire army with him. What better security and protection could the revered sage ask for? That was Dasaratha's pitch. But unfortunately for him, that was not getting anywhere. We pick up from that point. Vishwamitra heard Dasaratha without interrupting him. But as he kept on listening, he became more and more angry. Raising his voice, he said, "O king, I am astonished by your attitude. You forget that to start with, I did not seek any favor from you. It was you who made an offer to serve me. Moreover, you solemnly promised that you would readily do whatever I asked of you. And when I actually make a request, you are, after creating expectations and making solemn promises, going back on the word given. This is absolutely amazing. I never thought I would live to see the day when a monarch of this famous Ikshvaku dynasty would go back on his given word. I have nothing more to add except to say that may you be happy unfolding untruth, which you seem to fancy so much." So saying, Vishwamitra turned back to make his exit. Realizing that matters were getting rather out of hand, sage Vasishtha decided to intervene, and addressing Dasaratha, he said, "O king, having given your word to do whatever sage Vishwamitra asked, it does not behove one belonging to the Ikshvaku race to go back on the promise given. The sage who is making this request is no ordinary rishi. He has accumulated awesome powers through his tapas and is quite capable of using those powers to remove obstacles that come in his way. Besides, he knows completely the past, the present, and the future as well. If such a holy and mighty one is making a pointed request for assistance to be rendered by Rama, it means there is definitely some divine purpose behind it. It would therefore be in the fitness of things for you to seek the sage's forgiveness and send Rama with him at once, willingly and with full consent." Vasishtha's sobering advice helped to calm the agitations in Dasaratha's mind. Realizing that he must bow to the dictates of elders, Dasaratha profusely apologized to sage Vishwamitra and immediately summoned not only Rama but also Lakshmana, knowing how inseparable the two were. Fondly embracing and blessing them, Dasaratha asked them to follow sage Vishwamitra, fulfilling every wish and command of the venerable rishi. The curtain had gone up the divine drama that would, after many long years, finally culminate in the annihilation of Ravana, to eliminate whom the Lord had incarnated as Lord Sri Rama. Led by the holy sage, Rama and Lakshmana soon left Ayodhya, walking instead of going by chariots or on horseback as they normally did. As evening fell, they were close to the Sarayu river, and suddenly the all-knowing sage began to have strange doubts. Gripped by anxiety, he began to tell himself, "These are princes, accustomed to royal luxury, including the choicest food served at regular hours. On the other hand, the mission they are embarking on presently would make heavy demands, leaving them little time even to grab a few morsels of food or a few moments of sleep. It is best, therefore, that I teach them some mantras that would suppress both hunger and sleep." Vishwamitra then proceeded to teach Rama and Lakshmana the special mantras that would enable the princes to overcome both sleep and hunger. It is curious that the venerable sage, who knew perfectly well that Rama was none other than Lord Vishnu himself, should think of him now in purely human terms. However, such things do happen when God comes down in human form. Maybe it's all a part of the divine drama, and possibly it was for the same reason that Rama, who knew everything, acted like a young prince ought to, and, along with Lakshmana, learned the mantras taught exactly as loyal and dutiful disciples would. Soon it was night and time to rest. While the sage was quite used to the rigors of austere living, for the princess, sleeping in the open with sky as the roof and ground as the bed was a new experience. Next morning, waking up early, all three quickly went through the various morning routines and prayers and resumed their trek through the forest. After a long while, they came to the spot where the river Sarayu merges with the holy Ganges. Spending the night at an ashram located near the confluence of the two rivers, Rama and Lakshmana, along with sage Vishwamitra, crossed the Ganges the following morning and thereafter entered a dense forest. They were now quite close to their destination, and responding to a casual question from Rama concerning the forest, Vishwamitra took the opportunity to mention that this was where a fierce female demon named Tataki lived, along with her son Maricha. The sage added, "Rama, Tataki became a demon as a result of a curse due to sage Agastya, and once she transformed into a Rakshasi, she lost her status as a woman. Her strength is equal to that of 1,000 elephants, while her evil son Marisha is believed to be as strong as Indra, the ruler of the Devas. Both of them keep busy by harassing the rishis who had come to that forest for spiritually elevating themselves. The time is fast approaching for Tataki to be eliminated, and when the moment arrives, you should have no hesitation whatsoever in disposing her off. Remember, she is no longer a woman, but pure evil, and does not deserve even a trace of consideration or compassion." In response, Rama said, "O respected sage, please be assured I shall do precisely as you say." And as if to emphasize that he meant what he said, Rama twanged his bow Kodandam, creating thereby a deafening sound of warning. Tataki heard the sound and felt challenged. Full of fury, she rushed to where Rama was, whereupon a fierce battle ensued. While the Rakshasi used every trick she knew to attack the princess, Rama and Lakshmana punished her by cutting off her nose and ears. Noticing a certain hesitancy on the part of Rama to kill Tataki, Vishwamitra decided to intervene and said, "Rama, thus far you have shown enough consideration and spared the life of this demoness. But remember, as night falls and darkness increases, so does the power of demons. And that would make fighting her more difficult for you with every passing minute. The time has come to totally exterminate her, and do not put off that moment." Paying heed to the advice, Rama then shot an arrow that pierced the heart of Tataki, felling her to the ground. And with her death came to an end an old curse that lay upon the land, which instantly regained its former luster. The first obstacle having been eliminated, Vishwamitra was quite pleased, and the trio spent a quiet night in the forest, where peace now reigned. Next morning, before they resumed their journey, sage Vishwamitra decided to initiate the princess into the mysteries of certain astras that would come in handy in the days to come. An astra was essentially an arrow rendered highly potent by the power conferred on it by a particular deity. The power of the deity concerned was invoked through the chant of appropriate mantras that were chanted just before the arrow was shot. That did not mean, however, that anyone and everyone could chant the mantras and invest their projectile with power. The deity concerned first had to be propitiated suitably and a boon obtained so that the arrow one shoots could, when so desired, be endowed with the desired potency and power. A particularly powerful astra was the famous Brahmastra, which could be granted only by Brahma himself, of course only after propitiating Brahma the Creator with intense tapas for a very long time. Sage Vishwamitra had, in his years of long penance, acquired many a powerful astra, and he now decided that he would initiate Rama and Lakshmana into those in order to enhance their armory. Even as the thought came to him, the sage realized that it was ironic that he was seeking to enhance the power of the Lord himself. At the same time, he also understood that what was happening was nothing but a part of a complex and divine drama in which he, the sage, had to play his role in full measure. In that spirit, acting outwardly like a sage, but with total and complete humility and reverence within, Vishwamitra went through the motions of transferring to Rama and Lakshmana all the powerful astras over which he had command. The teachings of the astras concluded, the sage resumed the trekking, leading the young princess through the dense forests. After journeying for some time, they came to a beautiful spot. It seemed ideal for hermits to reside in. Noticing that Rama was showing keen interest in the place, sage Vishwamitra told him that this place, called Siddhashrama, was where Lord Vishnu himself had once engaged in deep meditation. The place derived its name from the fact that wishes made here with a pure heart and for a good purpose always came true. Soon they arrived at their destination, announcing which sage Vishwamitra said, "Rama, we have arrived, and welcome to my ashram. This is where I shall be performing the yagam, and the rituals would commence tomorrow morning, which is when your work would really start. Meanwhile, maybe both Lakshmana and you could relax and take some rest." Next morning, as the proceedings began, Rama respectfully asked, "O revered sage, at what stage of the yagam may we expect the Rakshasas?" The sage remained silent and continued with the rituals he was performing. One of his disciples then whispered into Rama's ears, "Having commenced the rituals associated with the yagam, the sage has to observe silence till the proceedings are over. In response to your question, I can state that the rituals would go on non-stop for 6 days and nights. This is the danger period during which demons could attack at any time of their choosing. In turn, this means that both of you would have to remain alert throughout this period, with no time out for sleeping or even for eating." It was the 6th day, and the yagam was entering an important and most sacred phase, when suddenly thundering roars like the rumbles of stormy clouds were heard, after which, appearing suddenly as if by magic from seemingly nowhere, two Rakshasas, Subahu and Marisha, began spraying blood all over the place, severely polluting it. The surprise assault that Rama and Lakshmana were preparing for had finally arrived, and promptly they went into action. Lakshmana dispatched a powerful astra directed at Maricha, who was instantly knocked out of the sky and flung far into the distance. Why did not the astra kill Maricha? There was a divine reason for that, which would become evident later. The Rakshasas, who till then had the run of the place and could do what they pleased, were stunned by the blow delivered to Maricha. Launching a furious response, they came in wave after wave, trying their best to disrupt the yagam. However, in no time at all, Rama and Lakshmana made short work of them until only Subahu was left. Gathering all his strength, Subahu made one last try, but he was no match for Rama's arrows. Soon he too was gone, and the yagam could now proceed uninterrupted. Where the divine drama relating to Ravana was concerned, the first set of his cronies had been disposed of, and along with it a strong message also sent to him. Soon after the yagam was over, Rama asked, "O holy sage, we have been sent here to do your bidding. As far as protecting your yagam is concerned, we have done what was required of us. Have you any further work for us?" The sage did not directly reply, and instead merely looked at his disciples. Taking the cue, in one voice they said to Rama, "The great Emperor Janaka is soon going to perform an important yagam for common good and has invited our revered Guruji. All of us are therefore planning to go to Mithila, the capital city of Janaka's kingdom, to participate in that ceremony. Rama, we suggest that you and your brother should accompany us, because that would give you an opportunity to see an exceptional bow gifted to one of Janaka's ancestors during a yagam. It is said that thus far no one has been able to lift that bow and string it. Perhaps you might like to take a look at that much worshipped bow, which is said to be of divine origin." Rama and Lakshmana understood what exactly sage Vishwamitra wanted of them, and that he was merely speaking through his disciples. They thus readily agreed to go along with the sage and his disciples to Janaka's court. En route, Rama asked many questions, especially relating to the regions they passed through, exactly like an eager prince would do. For his part, the sage responded with many an absorbing tale, amazed once again how the divine drama was making him, a mere mortal, act as a teacher to the all-knowing one. When the party reached the sacred river Ganga, it was time to narrate the story of how Ganga, the daughter of the heavens, came down to earth to redeem the ancestors of Rama. It all started, said sage Vishwamitra, with Emperor Sagar of the Ikshvaku dynasty, who, having no sons, did penance for a long time, after which sage Bhrigu, who had earlier done tapas at the same spot, appeared before Sagar and said, "One of your wives would bear a single son who would later perpetuate the race. The other wife would bear 60,000 sons. Between them, your wives can decide who prefers which option." Thereupon, Kesini, the elder wife, said she would be satisfied with a single son, while Sumati, the younger wife, opted for 60,000 sons. When the time came, Kesini delivered a son who was named Asamanja, whereas Sumati brought forth a big spherical lump of flesh. However, when the lump was cut open, 60,000 sons came forth. Years later, Emperor Sagar decided to perform the Ashwamedha Yagam. And when the time came to send the ceremonial horse on the stipulated round trip, Sagar asked his grandson Amsuman, born to Asamanja, to accompany the horse. As soon as the horse set forth, Indra, the king of the Devas, stole the horse, thus causing a huge obstacle to the yagam that Sagar had launched. Amsuman went back to report the mishap, and upon hearing the bad news, Emperor Sagar immediately ordered his 60,000 sons to go forth, search carefully everywhere, locate the horse, set it free, and come back with the news. The emperor added that he would in the meantime put the proceedings on hold. The 60,000 sons of Sagar then searched all over the earth and not finding the horse anywhere, began digging deep to check whether the horse had been taken to the netherworld. The digging was so extensive and furious that the beings of the subterranean world got terrified and prayed to Brahma, who assured them that sage Kapila would take care of their problem, which did happen and in the following manner. One day, during their elaborate exploration of the netherworld, the sons of Sagar saw the missing horse lazily grazing, while nearby was seated sage Kapila lost deep in meditation. Mistakenly assuming that it was the sage who had stolen the horse, they started abusing and attacking him, whereupon he cursed them, reducing them all to ashes in the twinkling of an eye. Back in Ayodhya, Sagar began to worry about the absence of news from his sons and sent Amsuman to investigate. During his search, Amsuman came upon the huge excavation made by his uncles and going down saw the immense ash heap representing the remains of his late uncles. Amsuman was totally nonplussed and spotting nearby Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, asked him what the ashes meant. Garuda then narrated the entire story and added, "To redeem your uncles, there are two things you must do. First, you must take back the horse immediately so that your grandfather can complete the yagam. Next, tell your grandfather to do all he could to bring Ganga down to the earth from heaven so that she flows as a river here. King Sagar has to make sure that Ganga water touches this ash heap. Only then would the sins of your uncles would get washed away, enabling their souls to enter heaven." As instructed by Garuda, Amsuman took the horse back so that Emperor Sagar could quickly complete the yagam. Later, Sagar became totally absorbed in bringing Ganga down to earth. However, he could not, and he died a broken-hearted man. Amsuman, the sole survivor, was then crowned, but his mind was not on ruling. After a while, he handed the kingdom to his son Dilip, focusing his attention on bringing Ganga down to earth. Unfortunately, Amsuman also did not succeed and died frustrated as well as deeply disappointed. It was now Dilip's turn to attempt what his forefathers had tried to, but alas, he too failed. Thus it was that Dilip's son Bhagiratha inherited the task of redeeming 60,000 of his ancestors, lying as an ash heap deep in the netherworld. Having no children, Bhagiratha simply entrusted the kingdom to his ministers, withdrew to a remote spot, and began to do intense tapas. A very long time passed, after which Brahma, the creator, pleased with Bhagiratha's sustained and tenacious efforts, appeared before him and granted two boons. The first related to bringing Ganga down to earth, while the second was that Bhagirath would be blessed with a son, so that the Ikshvaku race could continue. As guided by Brahma, Bhagirath then prayed intensely to Lord Shiva, who graciously came down to earth, standing ready to receive Ganga on his head, even as she descended down from heaven. This was absolutely necessary, for otherwise the force of descent would have smashed the entire earth to pieces. Finally, after Ganga reached the earth, the force of impact having been moderated by Lord Shiva, she flowed as a river, guided by Bhagirath. Led by the tenacious king, Ganga finally reached the netherworld and wetted the ash heap. Instantly, the 60,000 sons of Sagar were liberated, after which they all could ascend to heaven. Even as Vishwamitra was finishing the thrilling and inspiring tale of Bhagirath, the party reached a deserted ashram. Rama wanted to know why the ashram was looking so desolate with no sign of human habitation. The sage replied, Rama, a long time ago, this very place where we now are used to be the hermitage of one known as Gautama Maharshi. He lived here for a very long time, engaged in various austerities and in deep contemplation of the divine. In this task, he was nobly associated by his wife Ahalya. One day, when sage Gautama had gone to the river nearby to have a bath and later make appropriate offerings to the gods, Indra entered the ashram in the guise of Gautama and sought physical union with Ahalya. However, she quickly saw through the disguise, recognizing the visitor to be none other than Indra. And yet, in a moment of weakness, she yielded to the advances because he who was trying to seduce her was the king of the gods. After gratifying her senses, Ahalya realized that her infidelity was in danger of being detected and urged Indra to depart immediately. Even as Indra was trying to sneak out quietly and undetected, sage Gautama entered the hut at that very moment. Seeing Indra bear the same form as himself and trying to slip out of his hut unnoticed, Gautama understood in a flash what had transpired. Drawing upon his powers, Gautama cursed Indra, after which, turning to Ahalya, he said, O wretched woman who is so easily yielded to the senses, you shall forthwith become invisible and, lying on an ash heap here, live for a very long time on nothing but air until the moment of redemption comes. And that would be when Rama visits this hermitage. Vishwamitra said, Rama, the moment for redeeming Ahalya has indeed arrived. All you have to do is to step inside the ashram, and Ahalya's curse would be ended, whereupon she would become her former self. Which is what exactly happened, after which an overjoyed Ahalya extended to Rama, Lakshmana and Vishwamitra a formal welcome in full accord with tradition and scriptural injunctions. Meanwhile, anticipating the arrival of Rama, sage Gautama also arrived on the scene, and Ahalya having been liberated from his curse, the sage was now happy to resume his life with his wife. Taking leave of sage Gautama and Ahalya, Vishwamitra and party then journeyed to Mithila, where Emperor Janaka was getting ready to perform the yagam he had planned on. On arrival at the site of the yagam, Vishwamitra was accorded a welcome befitting the eminence of the revered sage. Vishwamitra then introduced Rama and Lakshmana, after which he narrated all that had happened since the two princes left Ayodhya. Among those who listened with rapt attention was sage Sadanand, who served as the royal preceptor and spiritual advisor for Emperor Janaka. Sadanand was the son of Gautama and Ahalya and was overwhelmed to hear that the curse on his mother had ended and that his parents had resumed their life together. Sadanand could no doubt see the divine hand behind it all, but feeling immensely grateful to Vishwamitra for being instrumental in the liberation of his mother from the curse laid upon her, narrated then the amazing story of Vishwamitra. Sadanand said, "Today he is hailed as a Brahma Rishi, the highest accolade a sage can earn. But by birth, this sage is a scion of Kaushik and the son of a king named Gadi. On one occasion, he, along with his army, went round the world. In the course of his wanderings, he came to the holy and picturesque ashram of sage Vasishta. Entering the hermitage, Vishwamitra offered his respects to the sage, who reciprocated with a warm welcome. Vishwamitra was very pleased, and when he rose to take leave, saying that he did not wish to disturb sage Vasishta any further, sage Vasishta insisted that his royal guest must accept at least some hospitality before leaving. Not wanting to displease the sage, Vishwamitra agreed, whereupon Vasishta spoke to his cow and said, "Shabala," that was the name of the cow, "set forth for our royal visitor a fabulous banquet worthy of his fame and reputation." Shabala did just that, producing everything in the twinkling of an eye. Everyone partook of the great feast, and as he was about to leave, Vishwamitra said to Vasishta, "O great one, I feel highly honored having been extended such generous hospitality and sumptuously entertained by you, for which I am deeply grateful. I have a request. This wonderful cow Shabala would be of greater use to me than here in the ashram. I therefore request you to give it to me in exchange for 100,000 cows. In fact, Shabala should be in a royal palace than in a hermitage in the forest." Clearly, it was Vishwamitra's ego speaking. Gautama continued, Vasishta flatly rejected the exchange offer, adding that Shabala was inseparable from him. When Vishwamitra found that no amount of persuasion would work, he tried force. Shabala wept, even as the soldiers of the king tried to drag her away. Unable to bear her agony, Vasishta then ordered Shabala to create a huge army to fight the enraged king. A fierce battle then ensued, which Vishwamitra lost. Having suffered huge casualties and lost most of his sons as well, Vishwamitra retreated in anger and shame. Realizing that the power of tapas was greater than that of military might, Vishwamitra then handed over his kingdom to his only surviving son and withdrew to the forest to do penance and gain powers such as rishis acquired. Time is up for the day and I shall stop here. I do hope you are enjoying this series and would join me again next week for the continuation. Meanwhile, thanks for listening and best wishes to all of you. God bless and Jai Sai Ram.